Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So, welcome another day here in the day of the heart chakra, in the emotional week of Capricorn. So, we keep working with the very Capricornian concepts that keep us working within ourselves all the time. So let's begin with today's topic, which is relationships. Just a little concept about this, which is we are not talking about relationships regarding the relationships that you have when you get in love with your partner or something like this. I am speaking about relationships of every emotional relationship that you can have with your family, with the friends, with work. So all these kind of things. So it's not only about the ones you love as a couple. So just for you to have in mind that our cultures today has these preconcepts of what is a relationship, because since the moment we are start to grow, we have these cultural beliefs that we have to find someone in our lives, that we have to make a project together, that we have to have kids, to get married, to die together, to do everything with a partner in life. And we are so pushed by this that the moment that we see the word relationship, we think about this, and this is a social conditioning of a relationship. So it's not what I am really saying, but anyway, the reason why we do this thinking is related to what I'm going to explain today. So let's begin with the explanation of what a relationship means. So relation comes from the word relatio. Remember that re means again, lat means to extend, to expand, and tio is the action. So the action of expanding myself again, that's a relation. So it means to bring something from one point to another again, once and again. So if you think about our perception today of what is a relationship, we usually say, I am in a relationship. And that means that you are close to someone, that you are with someone, and that's it. You are not being able to do anything else because you are locked in a relationship. And the etymology of the word is exactly the opposite. The etymology of relationship is to expand, to bring something that is inside to the outside, to do it again, to expand myself in a different level. So it's very different from what we believe. So as always, to understand why relation means to expand, we have, as always, to go to very far in the past. So let's go to the caves in the very beginning. Remember, we were like tiny groups of people living in caves, families. So these families, for example, some of them had meat, and there was another family far away that has fruits, and there was another family far away that had seeds, and there was another one that had coats, for example. So each one of them has something different, but they were in a lack of something, of the things that the other ones had. So what they needed to do is to every time of the year, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 times of the year, they had to leave their caves and their tiny places to go away, to expand their path, to reach these other people, exchange things. I give you seeds, the other one gives me some fruits, I exchange things, and then I go back home. And I repeat the same system once and again. So that is relation, the action of expanding myself outside and communicating with others. So the relationships of different families living in the caves was to connect, exchange, and and be able to survive. Okay, so relationship comes from the concept of expand ourselves and communicate with others. So remember that the concept of relation is not to be attached to one another, it's about to move forward and to communicate in between the different people. Okay, so let's go into this idea. So here comes one day that one of the families, of the 4 families, has an idea. And his idea was, what if instead of just exchanging from one family to another, why don't we put both families together? And we can put those families together. Okay? And like this, we ensure that our family has the meat and the other family has the fruits, so we always can have fruits and meat. So they say, how can we put this together? How can we have a better relationship with one another? So they said, with the same blood. So we put the bloods of this family and this family together, creating one son or a daughter. So when we create this kid, we put together the 2 families. Is the symbolism of the unity. That's how they used to see it in the ancient times. So the physical way in which you unite 2 things is one kid. So what they did, okay, so the daughter of the person with the fruits and the son of the badger were forced to be in a relationship. Okay? Forced to live in a relationship so they can have a kid to integrate both families. And that's what we call matrimony. A matrimony comes from the Latin word matrimonium, which means one mother. One mother. So the matrimony means that you have only one mother having one kid. So that only kid is the one that puts everyone together. So the matrimony, this is how matrimony, marriage begins. Okay, that's the way in which it begins. It was not because of love. The relationships, the first relationships, was trying to make 2 families to put together to survive. That's all. Then comes love and so on, but let's talk about it. Entonces, tengo al carnicero y al verdulero en una relación matrimonial. Entonces, el de los abrigos y el de las semillas dicen, vamos a hacer lo mismo. Se unen y crean una gran familia. Y empiezan a ser cada vez más grandes estas familias, creando un pueblo. So then when the people with the fruits and the people with the meat got together, so the other ones with the coats and the seeds, they say, we have to do the same thing. So they got together in another relationship and they start to create bigger families. Okay. So now imagine this, that we have these two big families now. And these two big families, suddenly they say, hey, what happened if we do exactly the same? If we put together, so one daughter, one son, and we make another relationship between the two big families for one only kid to unite us all. And we live all together. So they create a great family with a lot of people, but only one that connects them all. So that's how we created the concept of the king or the queen. So now the king or the queen is the one that will divide the groups of the family in what we call the tribes. Okay, the tribes. So the king is the one that will represent the unity of all these different people. So what these families, these tribes, what they do is to give some of the resources to the king to keep him going with the representation, to bring them all together. So that's what we call a tribute. From there comes the tribe. A tribute is the same word. It comes from there. So the people from the tribes gives a tribute to the king or the queen to have him or her as a symbol of unity of all the tribes. Okay, that's how the system started. So important thing to say about this, from the point of view of today, we can say, oh, this is horrible, but because we have gone through all this story. But we have to understand the origin of this idea, because the king, the queen, was the only concept that helps be one, to be together, to survive as one. Okay, so for that time was the main system that was able to hold us all in a relationship. Okay, so now this king is willing to look for another king to convince the other one to put together a relationship in a matrimony, and so the kingdom starts to grow. And you can see this in every movie. In the movies, you can see this, how the queens start to make these arrangements of matrimony to have a kid so they can make a bigger empire, a bigger kingdom by blood. So this means that this concept of relationships is mainly about to work for the safety of a group, for the survival of a family. So the law of matrimony was specifically something for survival, okay, and yeah, for survival, basically. Okay. And economics and survival. So imagine this: until the women were started to work like really in a short period of time now. But for the last 2,000, 3,000 years, women were just to reproduce, considered only for mothers. So because of why? So because of this, they thought women were just to have kids. So whoever had a kid, a daughter, the first thing that these people would try to do is to marry her with someone with much more resources. So in between the 11 years old and 15 years old, in the period of reproduction, they would try to match her with someone else. So older, with money or resources, so they could have a kid, and the family that was poor could have more resources to survive. Okay, so that was like this for a long time. So for a long time, this happened in many cultures, and even today we have this happening in many cultures, and it also still happens in our in our Western civilization. I don't know if you know the concept of this, but from the feudalism system, in the Americas, still today we celebrate this thing of the Sweet 16 or the 15 for most of the in South America, Mexico and South America. And this Sweet 16 it was in the feudalism time, it was to prepare the little woman to be shown to all these men, to let them know that you can now say how much you will pay to have her uterus. That would be like this. So in the feudalism time, the women in between 11 to 16 years old were put into the public in front of all these men, so they could decide and to fight against them, who is paying more for having her. Okay, so now today we have this tradition still of celebrating the 15 or the Sweet 16, but this is a horrible story. But I don't know how many of you have heard this concept since you were a child, that even your moms or grandmothers used to say, you have to find a good man in your life to take care of you, that loves you, that gives you the food, that it's really a hardworking person, these kind of things. For sure you have heard about all these concepts, and this is because from a long time this was something natural. And remember, in the past, the people used to live around 30 years old. So in between the 30s and the 40s, they used to die. There was no more life. So that's why they said that the life of a woman started in the moment when a girl becomes a woman. So that's between 11 and 15 years old. So in that moment, they have kids, because you only have other 20 years more to live. So that matches perfectly with the 15 years that your sons or daughters could live alone. So this tradition, it was the thing that created this pederastia, okay, pederastia culture of older people looking for younger people in order to survive. So this is a tradition that kept going because of survival. Now it's horrible. We shouldn't work with this anymore. But in order to heal it, you have to understand the story, okay? Because many of those people has this information within their bodies. So this is how the system starts to transform, which is when we have this, we have now this perception of how a relationship is to own someone, because the people in this past 2,000, 3,000 years used to buy people, like old men having young women or young men, okay, for their own, like a possession. So people selling their own kids to grown-ups so they can survive. So this is how relationships stopped being an exchange of expansion and ended up being owner of a person, because someone bought the relationship now. So I hope you can see now how the process of relation in between people expanded, went now into the concept of owning someone, being the owner of a person. Okay? So this is why today in our cultures we have these concepts of the relationship as owning someone. Like if you conquer someone, you want to conquer the conquest of a person. You are romantic with a person. And all these concepts comes from the imperialism, okay, of owning people as slavery. So today, to have a relationship is basically to be a slave because of this story. Let's go now to kill a little bit the romanticism. And I love to be romantic. I love to. But anyway, we have to break it because we have to know where it comes from. So let's understand why we say romantic. Romantic comes from the word related to Rome, okay? And why is that? Because in the Middle Ages, everyone, every writer, every philosopher, every person that was writing about the beauty of the Roman Empire and all the cultures that it created around Europe were called the Romantics. So that's why in this period of time we call them the Romanticism. Romanticism is the period of time when all the people that came from Rome and from Rome started to describe the beauty of the cultures coming from Rome, like the languages, the Roman languages, like Spanish, Latin, Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese. This language comes from Rome. So all the people that used these languages were called the Romantics, okay? That's why we call them like this, the ones related to Rome. So all these people started to describe the beauty of the world, the fields, the people, the language, the cultures. So they started to be called the romantic ones because they seemed to be in love with everything that was growing in Europe, everything that was from Rome. So they describe everything with such a beauty, with such an expression of being in love of those things that were explaining that we call that the romanticism. They were romantics. Okay? And this is why today we still call it like this. And from where these people came from? From Rome. And where is Rome? Rome is in a place in Italy called Lazio. Lazio, it's the region of the Latin people. Okay, the Latin, that's Lazio, Latin. Okay, that's the origin of the word. Lazio means an extended plain, like a ground that is plain and extended. So that's Lazio. So this region was the origin of the Latin people, with its capital in Rome. Okay, so these people started to expand in an empire, and this empire was expanding through Europe, and expand is Lat. So the Latin people expanded once and again, what we call relation. Latian, that Latian, okay, is that region, Lazio. So the relationships was how Rome expanded once and again, okay? So what we have now is that Rome, from Latius, from the region of Lazio, started to expand, to conquer different countries, villages, regions around Europe and the world. And conquer, to conquest a person, to conquer something, it's like, it's all the terms, they are all the conquest of love, for example, all the concepts that we inherit from them. So we receive these ideas of being romantic, to conquest someone by the romanticism, and to be in a relationship. All the words that we use now for love come from the concepts of the imperialism that used to make people slave. And this is why even today we still create our relationships through the ideas of slavery. Take a deep breath. Once we said all this, because this is just the context, now we have to see, what do we do with all this? What we have to do now is to re-signify what is a relationship and a need, a necessity. So let's understand this. To understand the concept of necessary. Necessary comes from the Latin word ne and cessare, that means no cease. So non-stop, something that is eternal, is constant, never ends. And what is something that never ends in the universe? Expansion. The expansion. So remember, expansion is relation. So the needs, the necessity of a relation is constant, and every relationship is based on a necessity, a need. Okay? I hope you get this line. So now think about your own relationships. relation is about expansion. Think about every relationship through emotions that you have with anyone. The worst relationships and the best relationships you ever had. With family, with friends, with partners, with couples. It doesn't matter if it was the worst or the best one, all of them pushed you to expand yourself because all of them helped you to see something different from your own self. That's why we call it the expansion of consciousness. And this expansion, looking for relations everywhere, is because we are in the necessity of this. Necessity is that never stops, is constant. And why is that? We are always looking for a relationship, a new relationship, something new to relate to. People, environments, nature, the cosmos, everything. We are looking to relate with something constantly because in our inner self, we are looking to expand to something new, to see something different, to feel free as many things we can see. So to go from one relation to another, relation with anything, helps us to expand. It's a need that we have to feel free, expanding ourselves from the heart. Is born from a personal necessity, a need of my own self. So it's not about to get rid of the need to be in a relationship. It's about to understand why or what I am in the need of learn in this relationship. So the question is, what for? And this is the most Capricornian question you can do in a relationship. What for? This is the gift of Capricorn. So we have to ask ourselves, am I looking for a relationship in order to fulfill some voids within me? Or I am looking at a relationship to expand myself? Because if the only thing that I discover that I am doing is to fill the gaps within me, the only thing that I am doing is to go into a romantic relationship of conquest. So remember, we are not here to possess anyone or anything. We are here to expand ourselves through the others. So now, it doesn't matter which kind of relationships you have. The question that you have to ask yourself is that, well, the thing that you have to see by yourself is that the relationship that you have is the one you need. So the question you have to do is, am I in the need of this? Why I am in this need? So sometimes we are still in this kind of heavy relationships because we cannot understand what are we needing in this relationship until I don't recognize what I am needing in the necessity of this relationship. So I will repeat it once and again, and it will never end. So just for you to know that usually, when someone is trying to connect with themselves and start to find the connection before they can connect with the higher self, the main thing that happened is divorce, separations, and that's for sure something that happens to all of us, because it's the first thing. It's the first thing that shows you that you are in the process of awakening. So, being alone. So get ready. So just for you to understand this, when you start the path of enlightenment or the conscious path, it's not that you have to be alone and not relationships at all. Okay, this means that the old way of relationships ends because there is no conditions, and a new way of relationships begin in a different way. Okay, so it's not that you have to be alone, it's that you just change the way you relate with people. So there is hope, but all of this hope depends on you. The vibration for today is B. The statement for today is I am the heart's home. The code for today is creativity. In the moment the consciousness positions itself into matter, the appearance of a creative mind in evolution is key to contemplate the most intrinsic potential of divinity. The art in all its areas is the foundation of all creation itself. The universe is a being of enormous creativity, and its key lays in the ability of finding ways, solutions, forms, and different methods for every circumstance. Let's go to the alignment. So we sit comfortable and close your eyes. Take a deep breath and focus in your own breathing. Softly start to caress the body, to stretch the body as I breathe until I can feel it relaxed. I become aware of the environment where I find myself in right now, paying attention to the things that are around me. And with my imagination, I start to design a night, making everything getting darker until I see this deep sky full of stars. Take a deep breath, and in front of me, I can see a fire. I can feel the heat of this fire in my hands, my chest, and face as I see how its flames with different tones of orange move like a snake. I become aware that I find myself seated in a circle with many people around the fire. And I remember that all of them are here to remind me the way in which I relate with the world. Take a deep breath. I can see now the faces of these people being enlightened by the fire in the center, so I can recognize in their faces that they are my relationships, friends, family, and couples. Without any judgment, I see around all these people with whom I have had the best of the relationships and the worst of the relationships. I can recognize in their faces that they don't represent themselves the conflict, that they are just enlightened by the expansion of the light of the fire that I am, that the concept of this relationship that I had is just the expansion of myself on them, pushed by my own necessities, my own needs. Take a deep breath. I am here to ask myself from where I am relating with people. What is my need in these relationships? I must remind myself that each relationship isn't other thing but a tool to help me in my own expansion. Am I free in these relationships? What are my needs that I am still slave in them? Take a deep breath and start to activate these answers within you by the vibration.
I recognize that all the relationships that I have comes from my own expansion, from my own heart, my own heartbeat. And all of them in which I project part of my expansion, they are part of my home. I am the heart's home. I am the heart's home. I am the heart's home. And I recognize my relationships are not using me because of my needs. I use my needs because I am willing to relate. I use. I use. I use. I take my hands to my heart, feeling all this fire expanding from me. Take a deep breath and begin to bring all this fire through your body by caressing, stretching, and yawning. And each one at its own time, coming back here and now. Remember that today's task is to write down all these relationships so you can be aware how you use these relationships. Thank you everybody for being here as always. And as always, see you tomorrow at the same time.